First time, second time, the third, sold.
Hi everyone, this is Piotr from Auction News TV and welcome to the next episode of our channel. I'm here with Mahfouz Rahman from Roland Fletcher & Baker. Hello Mahfouz.
Hiya, how are you? That's good.
I'm good, thanks. And Mahfouz is a solicitor at Roland Fletcher & Baker. And I met Mahfouz at networking events and we quickly started working together, and Mahfouz actually completed one of the transactions for my client a few days ago. So I know he's really capable solicitor, and we're here to talk about the importance of reviewing legal packs before actually going to the auction, and what the dangers of not doing that and how much it can cost you. So what is the importance of reviewing the legal pack before the auction? What are the dangers of actually not doing that?
Okay, well, reviewing the auction pack is of fundamental importance, mainly because when you're at auction, you're committing yourself into buying a property. And unlike normal sales and purchases where your solicitor has 6 weeks or however long he has to review the documents, review the searches, review the title, and to ensure that you've got a good bill of health to go and buy the property, and he's giving you the A-OK. But with an auction, that's not necessarily the case. So it's fundamental importance that you give the auction pack to your solicitor in order for them to review it. And the main things that a solicitor will be looking at is, firstly, we'll be looking at their title, because the title will prove that who the seller is, what are the covenants affecting the title, which if there's, for instance, if you want to create, if your intention is to divide the property in X amount of flats, if there's a covenant which says that there must only one single dwelling house on that land, then that's a problem. You cannot reach objectives. So that's one thing. Then you need to look at whether the charges register, whether there's any mortgages on the property, and of course you'd expect that to be dealt with on completion and sold off. Of course, also restrictions. I'm sure some viewers out there have heard of RX1s. So many people would enter a restriction on the title register. So you want to make sure that all of those matters are in place to ensure the removal of the restriction as and when you go to purchase the property. You would also expect a local search on the property, which most sellers and seller solicitors who want to give a good auction pack for potential buyers to review, that local search is you want to look at adverse planning histories, whether there's adverse notices by the council, local land charges, and those matters are of fundamental importance. And then, of course, if there's a property which is being built, or there's something we renovated recently, for example, if it's been just converted into 4 flats, you're expecting to see a completion certificate to make sure it's all done in accordance with building regulations. And more so, which is in auction, you have a lot of cash buyers, Piotr, which is you've got the cash and you're able and willing to go. But then other times people are relying on bridging finance, and one of the dangers are that if you haven't reviewed the auction pack correctly, and after exchange in the auction house, in the auction, then you've got 4 weeks to complete and 4 weeks to get bridging ready. Well, the lender on the bridging will be separately represented, and they'll have a whole list of requirements, and if your auction pack cannot satisfy their requirements, then you're going to have potential difficulty in getting that bridging and therefore being in default of your contract. And I'll tell you one thing, after you've exchanged a contract and auction, good luck getting anything from the seller solicitor, because the seller solicitor does not have to give anything. As far as he's concerned, or for he or she is concerned, you've exchanged contracts, you're committed, I don't need to deal with any other inquiries, this is the completion date, this is the money's owed, and that's it.
Yeah, so that's important. If you get in finance, you need to make sure that you will be able to satisfy the conditions of the finance of the lender, and also what you mentioned about the title documents and local searches, but another important thing is obviously the special conditions, because that's really what makes the contract whatever. I mean, the seller can put whatever conditions he wants in the special condition. So he may ask you to complete in 5 days, in 10 days. He may ask you to put 30% deposit on exchange instead of 10%. There's a lot of things that can be added in special conditions that need to be reviewed before exchanging the contracts, right?
Especially, yes, definitely. And to the point, anything that will cost you money, anything like the typical clause in these auction contract is the buyer shall pay 1% of the seller's cost. I've seen a lot of time. And
Or 2%.
2%, whichever it is. And that means a lot of money that you have to fork out. And especially if you're bridging dependent, lending dependent, most lenders may fund the purchase price, but not like 1-2%. So you have to fund that. So that's affecting your figures. Secondly, as you said, if you need to complete in 2 weeks, then you need to make sure that you're ready and willing to go within 2 weeks.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll be a default at that contract. And of course, also look to see what the contract is subject to. Is it subject to a tenancy? Then you want to make sure that you do some due diligence around that tenancy. Because if it is subject to a tenancy, you don't know whether that tenant's got years of rental arrears. Then it's a bad tenant. So what you're really buying is, initially you're buying a headache to remove that tenant or get them to pay rent. But if someone's not been paying for 2 years of rent, what are the chances they will pay rent going forward? So that kind of matters. Once it's subject, what are you buying it subject to? What's going to cost you money? What may be the default notice? The default notice is, for instance, if completion is the 30th of May and you have failed to complete after a certain time after the 30th of May, then the seller solicitor can serve notice on you, and that could be £250, £500. Then you have to pay that amount as well. And of course, then you're looking at the interest payable as well for the late completion. So all of those matters, your solicitor should be, when reviewing the auction pack, give you a summary of this is what's going to cost you money, this is how long you've got, this is the risks, and this is what you're buying subject to.
Yeah, so basically you may think that you're buying something for a really good price in the auction, but the price is really subject to all the things that are inside the legal pack, and there might be problems that might be costing you thousands of pounds, and really the price that you're paying for the property might not be as after reviewing the legal pack. So that's an important thing to bear in mind. And it costs something to review the legal pack, to ask your solicitor to review the legal pack, but the cost that you're paying before the auction is really something that it protects you from paying thousands of pounds in fees or even more, or losing hundreds of £1,000s, depends on the property you're buying. This is really, thank you Mahfouz for highlighting the main points of reviewing the legal packs. And Mahfouz deals on auction purchases, and he helps to review the legal packs and also prepare the legal packs for the sale. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. In terms of that, I can act for sellers as well. Some people, they are auctioneers. When you go auction, they buy and sell at auction, and they love the pace of it and the energy of it. And so with that, speed is very important, and how quickly you can get things done.
Yeah.
And diligence as well, speed and diligence, because you can do things quick, but if you do a bad job very quickly, there's not really much worth to it.
It's not. No.
Exactly.
I wouldn't recommend that.
No, of course not.
And so having a good solicitor can really save you a lot of money. And one of the really important things as well is to have a solicitor who understands auctions, because purchases, standard residential or buy-to-let purchases, are not the same as auction purchases. It's a different pace. There's a different aspects to the purchase. So you need to make sure that if you're buying the auction, you have a solicitor who understands auctions, understand auction contracts, and can work with the speed that's required with the auction.
I think especially if there is a lender involved, especially, that is of fundamental importance, because you have to, as your solicitors, you're relying on them or him to get your lender on board in the same pace, to the same objectives, and that's the difference between replying or sending something out within 2 days or within 2 hours.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, Mahfouz, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. And Mahfouz will be coming to the Property Auctions Mastery one-day course on the 25th of June, which I'll be leading, and we'll have 3 guest speakers. So Mahfouz will be one of them. He'll be speaking on the legal aspects of auction purchases and sales, and we'll have also Richard Ignatovic, who's a bridging specialist and a mortgage broker. He'll be talking about financing for your purchases. And we'll also have Jay Howard from Auction House London, who will be revealing some inside secrets from the auctions, and he's an auction manager in Auction House London, so he's seen everything, and he'll be sharing that knowledge on the 25th of June. So if you're thinking of buying something in auction, or perhaps selling in auction, and you would like to find out how to do it, how to make profits in auctions, and how to use auctions to your advantage, then come to the website www.auctionsmastery.com. You can see it just here, and you can book yourself in for the course on the 25th of June. So thank you, Mahfouz, again.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing you guys on the 25th of June, and hope you got something valuable out of this video, and feel free to share it with your friends, and also subscribe in here. Okay guys, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
First time, second time, the third, sold.